Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Austin Cindric in victory lane. As we talked about last week, one of the better super speedway racers in the series comes home with the victory at Talladega. Gets another super speedway win, locks himself into the playoffs, similar to what he did last year. Kyle Larson, William Byron, the Hendrick cars following him to the line. Noah Gragson, Chase Elliott, rounding out the top five. But the big story of the weekend was, two things. One, the lackluster finish in racing, which a lot of people are complaining about, that we saw on Sunday. And then there were two disqualifications. So initially, Ryan Preece finished second. He was disqualified, as was Joey Logano, who I believe finished fifth. Both those guys disqualified, credited with 38th and 39th place finishes for making some adjustments to the car that weren't legal. So the top five that I ran before was the adjusted after the disqualifications. But Austin Cindric, officially the winner. Nick, what did you think of that race?
It was interesting. Interesting, maybe not in a good way. Interesting in that I thought it was notable that at the end of stage one and at the end of stage two, I thought we got some pretty good racing for the stage wins. And then for the race win, it was pretty bad. I think there's a couple factors at play here. First, for the stage win, it's not as, I guess, a big a deal, although it surely was to Joey Logano in stage one if you heard him blow up on the radio with his teammate. But typically not as big a deal, so you're willing to take a little bit more risk to gain a couple stage points at the expense of a couple stage points. But also just the way teammates and manufacturers were set up, they were more able to help each other in those stage 1 and 2 finishes. You saw the Chevys make some runs at the end of stage 1, that kind of thing. So it was just an interesting, scenario where I think in the final stage, you had a Ford in the front next to a Ford in the front. And then you had a Chevy behind one of the Fords and a Chevy behind the other Ford. So there's no way for the Fords to link up. And there's no way for the Chevys to link up because they're kind of just trapped in this gridlock formation. And if you're a Chevy, like let's say you were on, I think it was Byron was on the outside line pushing one and Larson was on the inside. It might have been flip-flop. But, if you're on the outside line and it's Chevy Ford on that outside line, you can't really bail on the Ford in front of you because the Ford behind you is going to go with the Ford, and then you would have to pray that the car fourth or fifth in line or something are going to go with you. So it was kind of just a product of circumstance. That said, you can't really make your own moves with this car in the draft like you could in some previous iterations of cars and Arrowwood engine packages. I definitely have seen cases where a driver has just kind of been able to make his own way around a leader or around a car in front of him by working the air and, getting a good suck up and things like that to be able to make a move on his own. But you just can't seem to do that with this car. So overall, not a great race in general. We all know why they were 4 wide. It was the fuel saving deal, that whole thing. Super speedway racing just ain't as good as it used to be, man. It's just not.
Yeah, and I don't know if certainly NASCAR doesn't see a problem with what they have on track, despite week after week, the fans not being not too happy with it. But as long as ratings continue to maintain and or slightly improve, which we have seen over the last few years, I don't think that anything is going to change. When NASCAR has this mindset, they're not apt to do anything because nothing is really hurting them by putting this show on. Like the drivers can complain, they don't care. The fans, the diehard fans can complain, they don't really care. It's Elton Sawyer came out today and basically said and started spewing out the numbers of the lead changes, which they just considered when any car or when any person passed the leader during a lap, and said there was plenty there, that there's no issue with this car, this racing. But the fact of the matter is we are in a very bad stretch of races right here, from a fan perspective. I mean, you look at Jeff Gluck's polls over the last 4 races, and I think all of them are below 50%, which is just it should start sounding an alarm for NASCAR, but I'm very concerned as always, that it won't, and that nothing's going to change until they have to. So yeah, I can't remember the last time I wasn't that excited to watch a Daytona or Talladega race, and I was so not disappointed, but just completely not interested in this race on Sunday. And like I said, I have not felt that way for a long time, and I think it's a product of this racing.
Mm-hmm. I'll be interested in Daytona just because it'll be a playoff cutoff race, and we know that's just going to get stupid. But also breaking news. We are breaking news on Stacking Dennys. Statement from JR Junior Motorsports. Kyle Larson will sub for Connor Zilisch behind the wheel of the number 88 Chevrolet this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway as Zilisch continues to recover from a lower back injury sustained at Talladega. So that hard hit that Connor Zilisch had did end up resulting in a lower back injury. He complained about his back over the radio. So he's going to be held out of the car this weekend at Texas. Kyle Larson going to fill in the Xfinity Series there for Connor Zilisch.
Nice. I mean, not nice for Zilisch, but
right.
It's good that they're able to get that kind of a sub. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how long he's actually out because, lower back injuries, like we've seen those take months before.
Yeah, not nice for my Connor Zilisch over 1.5 wins on the season bet in Xfinity. He has one. I still think he'll get another. He's got so many more road courses left, but not nice for that. And that's hat tip to Jim Sonis. He alerted me to that, and I bet it wasn't one like I gave out or anything.
I speaking of season long win bets, I believe I mentioned several times that I bet Kyle Busch under 1.5, and I feel like I just dodged another potential bullet with him being able to get a win. So I'm still feeling pretty good about that one when it comes to the season long bets. What'd you make of the disqualifications? Anything? I'm honestly surprised that Cindric's car passed. Like, it seemed like the two highest running Fords, I guess Gregson came through too, but I halfway expected Cindric to fail too.
Yeah, it just sounds like it was something coming off on Joey's car through the course of the race.
Did you see Live Fast Motorsports tweet?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was real or if that was a joke, but might have been real.
If it was real, that's awesome. It's awesome either way. But if it's real, that's even more awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if that was real or a joke, but I saw it. But supposedly, there were supposed to be 3 of something, and there was only 2 or whatever on Logano's, and they say it worked its way out over the course of the race, and they accept the penalty because it needs to be there at the end of the race, so you can't have it working its way out, so you need to secure it better type deal. So that's why it passed pre-race and didn't pass post-race, and so. Makes sense, and honestly, it would make sense if it got lodged in the radiator or whatever of the Live Fast Motorsports car. That was interesting to see that tweet. Again, don't know if that's real. Don't know if they're just making a joke or something, but yeah.
But other than that, obviously Cindric winning changes up the playoff picture a little bit. But you guys have any other takeaways from Talladega?
Spire still not very good at these big super speedways. Didn't see Hocevar all day. Didn't see Haley all day. And the only time we saw McDowell was when they were all fuel saving 4 wide and he was sitting out front, right? So, but once they actually got going, McDowell finished 11th, but, really was 13th. So not really a factor again. Although, Hocevar did finish 6th, but again, just not really a factor all race. So some good finishes, but they never really ran up front outside of the whole 4 wide thing. So just something to think about there. And then Brad Keselowski, we said he needed a win, and that's another win opportunity for him taken away at arguably his best track. So, caught up in that crash with Kyle Busch pitting in stage 1.
I was surprised So to me, looking at what happened with Keselowski and that whole wreck, it looked like Keselowski's fault. Am I wrong there?
No, I don't think you're wrong.
I was completely shocked that he did not take a single ounce of accountability for that.
Yeah, I was a little shocked, but at the same time, it was just kind of a weird situation. Like, it's not one you're encountering all the time. The way some were coming on, the way some weren't, and you didn't quite know who was. I think they said like Kyle Busch didn't put his hand out the window, so they didn't know he was coming or not. So I agree. I think, Keselowski should have taken some accountability for it, but at the same time, it's one of those just like, yeah, maybe it was my fault, but it was also a situation where you just don't ever really encounter, and there's no real protocol for that. So it's just, I think it's just a racing incident in the end.
Another hard wreck that happened was Christopher Bell getting spun on a restart off of Denny Hamlin's bumper. Huge. And that was a big hit both for him and Chris Buescher.
That was the other thing I was going to mention was that Christopher Bell car just does not seem to be able to take a push. We saw it in the 500. Cole Custer 2 or 3 times just got Christopher Bell all out of sorts. And then Denny Hamlin shoves Christopher Bell and he wrecks. Like, that Christopher Bell car in 2 big super speedway races has not been able to take a push.
I wonder what would cause that, any potential reasons.
Yeah, maybe just the way he likes his car set up there. It's great pushing or in the draft or something, but not when it's out front trying to take a push, So maybe it's comfortable for 95% of the time he's going to be racing, but when he's out front taking a push, it's absolutely unstable.
Yeah. The actual
both times he was both times he was out front.
Yeah. The time or arguably the best position to be in, if you're at the end getting pushed, and your car's wrecking out. But yeah. So yeah, we'll move on to the point standings here. Cindric gets a win, so he's in. Obviously Josh Berry's in. So that moves the cut line to I believe. Yeah. So Cindric's 14th in points. That means Allmendinger's in right now, and the cut line is between Allmendinger and Kyle Busch, correct?
Yep. 6-point difference between the two.
Yep. So with Cindric being 14th in points, jumping up 8 spots with this win, it doesn't really change the cut line too much. But definitely it's going to make things interesting as we continue to go on throughout the year, because like we mentioned last week, we got Ty Gibbs back there. We got Keselowski back there. Both those guys that could have the speed to win at some point this season, not to mention guys that could surprise win. Anybody at a super speedway race can come up and win. And then there's, certain drivers like a Ryan Preece or someone that could sneak in a legitimate win off of speed. So Cindric taking up a playoff spot early in the season. Last year he got it done at, what was it, Iowa? Is that where Cindric won last year?
Gateway, I think it was.
Yeah,
no, that was Logano Gateway. Yeah, Logano was one, and Cindric was one. Let me scroll down here. It was Cindric at Gateway. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Logano was Nashville. That's what it was. That fuel mileage.
Yeah. Yep. But other than that, William Byron's still the leader over Larson's now second in points. Denny Hamlin falls a spot to third. Christopher Bell comes down 2 spots to fifth. Byron was still a really solid lead, 31 points over Larson, 52 points over Hamlin in third. But all those 3 guys just crushing everybody so far this year. Bubba Wallace moves up to 7th in points with an 8th place finish at Talladega. His 23-11 teammate Tyler Reddick is sitting there 6th in points. Blaney falls 2 more spots with another DNF this year. That is his 4th DNF in the first 10 races. Something to keep an eye on moving forward. Also kind of this week, because, before we get talking into Texas, I want to come back to talk to Blaney because I think he might be a little bit undervalued this week. But Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain rounding out the top 10 in points. Logano is tied with Chastain for 10th and 11th.
Yeah, I think overall, Ryan Preece, that penalty to him, the disqualification looms large because he'd be inside the cut line without that penalty there. So massive penalty to Ryan Preece. Also a pretty big penalty to Joey Logano. Like we said, he was 9th going into Talladega. Now he's 11th coming out. So a little bit closer to the cut line with no win there. You mentioned the Blaney DNFs, 4 DNFs. I mean, he was a total victim of circumstance at Talladega. He was a total victim of circumstance at Phoenix. Total victim of circumstance at Homestead in terms of his engine letting go. And then he made a mistake at Las Vegas. So really only 1 DNF on Blaney, and then 1 mechanical failure and 2 where he got caught up in incidents that absolutely were not his fault. So that's how it goes. Sometimes you just have a string of bad luck, and it's mostly not your fault, as the case here with Ryan Blaney. But yeah, I don't have too much else on the point standings.
One guy, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 17th in points through 10 races this year, just continues to consistently kind of just make it to the end of races. Finished 12th at Talladega.
Dude, I was so pissed. I had Stenhouse 55-1 for stage 1, and he was leading coming to the white flag. And I think ended up finishing 3rd in the stage or something. Made a bad choice.
He did,
I think on lane. Went from the high side to the middle, and I don't know why he didn't just stay up on the high side. Got to the middle, and he fell back to 2nd in his lane, but then tried to make a move back to the top and just didn't quite get it. But yeah, 55-1 winner for stage 1. Stenhouse finished 3rd, and 40-1 stage 1. Chase Elliott finished 4th in the stage. So classic RotoDoc. Also classic Ty Dillon top 10, loses it on the last lap. Chase Briscoe top Toyota, loses it on the last lap. What are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna do? I honestly was happy with my betting card. Anthony Alfredo, I had 6-1 top 10. He led a bunch of laps and just kind of it didn't.
He got off on that fuel sequence.
There. Yeah, I'm happy with my bets. It's I think another bagel of a day with some bad luck, but that's also super speedway racing. Yeah,
you should always even more you should never expect to win a bet, but even more so at super speedways, I just assume everything I bet's going to lose because that's how they play exactly. Out.
But totally. I mean, Briscoe for a lot of that looked like the best Toyota, and Ty Dillon ran inside the top 10 that whole last stint until the very last lap.
Yeah, he finished 10th in stage 1 too, led a lap. I think that's another reason why people were overall disappointed with Talladega is because there were really no big surprises. Like Austin Cindric was one of the favorites to win all week. Obviously the Hendrick cars are going to be fast. They finished 3 of the top 5. Gregson was a little bit of a surprise there, coming home 4th, but then, the rest of the top 10, Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Suarez, Austin Dillon, all those guys are pretty good super speedway racers. So I think that's another reason. And obviously Logano and Preece that were up there before the penalties. I think that just adds on to an overall lackluster. And I think now overall lackluster week. And I think, right now people are just dying for a good race, a somewhat good race. And unfortunately we're heading to Texas, which hasn't been amazing in this next gen era.
Yeah.
But
last year, again, Texas is another track. Last year I made 4 or 5 amazing bets and they all got screwed by that untimely caution. It's oh boy. So I'm excited for Texas because I think I'll end up having some good bets, especially after practice and qualifying. And I know we're jumping ahead here, but you just can't overcome bad luck sometimes. And I sent you a little graphic earlier. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but we're the most unpredictable era of NASCAR since loop data began, in the midst of the most unpredictable season so far. So there's even more chance for bad luck than there ever has been.
Mm-hmm. Or incredibly good luck, does that
absolutely.
open up the door or even more for the long shots? Yeah.
Yep.
So before we get to Texas though, we have to whine about some stuff presented by RotoBaller Winery, as always. And I know you have some wine with you.
That's right. I got the new. So RotoBaller recently introduced their Passion Essenza line. So I have the blackberry flavor. There's a few other flavors. Peach, I think, is one of them. And
I really like that branding.
Yeah, it looks really cool. So I've not tried any of their Essenza wines yet, so this is going to be a brand new wine for stacking Dennys. So we'll do the old ASMR. We'll pour it into the microphone. And I love, the other thing I love is these twist on and off tops. I just love them. Much easier to do than deal with than corks and stuff.
Yep.
That is good. That is good. Oh, and the aftertaste. Holy shit. You get the blackberry a lot after. That's really good. The after, like the second, like, so you taste it up on front of your tongue, and then when you swallow it and it hits like the back of your tongue, that blackberry is popping. That's good.
Is it? Oh, I'm gonna have to try this then.
That's good. That is good.
Awesome.
A to A plus.
A to A+. Wow, even better than.
And I'm not normally a white wine guy. This is a white wine, premium white wine with natural flavor, lightly bubbly, and a subtle touch of sweetness. Dude, that's good.
Nice.
So it's a flavored white wine, but yeah, you get that blackberry like later. It doesn't hit you up front, but it hits you later down as it's going down your throat and the back of the tongue. And I can still taste it. That's good.
Nice.
That's one sip. So
awesome.
Yes, get your RotoBaller wines. Definitely check out the new Essenza line as well.
Mm-hmm. You can go first on. Oh, I got okay. Okay. So mine's going to be pretty simple. I despise the fuel saving at Daytona and Talladega. Why is nobody pointing out just take out the stages? Because that's why this fuel saving's happening. Just take out the fucking stages. We tried it for road courses. People didn't like it because it was dominating. The best car won. But if you really want to shake up these and add another element to potentially make these a little bit better, these super speedway races, just take out the stages. Take out the stage cautions. You can still, do the points or whatever. We've seen it happen before on road courses. Why is nobody discussing this as a potential solution for super speedways? Because obviously everybody is annoyed with this fuel saving and, guys going 60% throttle.
Yep.
I don't think anybody enjoys watching that. As cool as it looks when they're going 4 wide, like, yeah, it looks cool. That makes a good picture. But nobody enjoys seeing these guys literally just ride around. Like, what are we doing? I don't get it.
Can I tack on to that? Because Denny Hamlin, in his post-race interview said, yeah, the Toyotas were the only ones that were trying to actually just make a race of it and, go hard. And they did. Toyota, once Toyota especially realized, like, there might be some Fords that could save through the whole stage and not even have to stop in the stage, Toyota lit it up and went. But I thought the racing was almost even worse then, because it was a single file line or a two person line and you couldn't pass. Like when they went, which means it's a car problem. Like when you're going full out and you cannot pass, you couldn't form a third lane that could do anything. That's a car problem. So this whole thing comes down to a strategy problem in stages, but also just a car problem. This next gen car does not race well at these big super speedways, especially at Talladega. Even though it's wide and you could have 3 or 4 wide racing, with Daytona being a little more handling dependent, it races a little better at Daytona than it does at Talladega. At Talladega, you're stuck. You can't go. That third lane cannot get forming when they're not fuel saving. And the only reason we get a third lane that's viable is at the very end of stages when teams try to, drivers and teams try to make moves on each other and you break up the air. That's when that third lane can come at the very end of a race. But in the middle of the stage, when these guys are going all out, and we've seen this multiple times at Talladega, the first especially year of the next gen car where they hadn't yet developed the fuel saving strategy, that third lane at Talladega just could never form. It couldn't get up, couldn't get any steam going. And we saw that again. Once the Toyotas went and started just going, a third lane could not form.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I mean, how much longer are we stuck with this car? Like, I always
I don't
forget
know.
the life cycle of these cars, but it's not going away anytime soon.
No.
And it's it's just unfortunate because we all remember how good the racing was at some of especially the shorter tracks, and then um Talladega and Daytona, and it's unfortunate we're just not going to get back to that.
Yeah, it's not good. The racing at super speedways is not good. And I mean, you talked about how 4 straight races were under 50% in the good race poll. They were 4 traditionally badass, awesome races, right? Martinsville,
Yeah.
Darlington, Bristol, Talladega. 4 races that, like, tracks that I remember in the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. I looked forward to all 4 of those tracks every year because I knew it was always going to be some of the best races of the year, by and large, for the most part. I mean, not 100% of the time, but they were
the potential was there.
4 of the worst races this year. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's bad. The racing is bad. Part of it is the car. I do honestly think a lot of it is the parity as well. When you've got guys like Carson Hocevar who are able to run inside the top 10 in a Spire car, Zane Smith back half of the top 10, right? Daniel Suarez is 25th in points, but he's always capable of running in the top 10 at certain tracks. Your Haley's, your Todd Gilliland's, right? These guys are 20th, 25th, 28th in points, but it's not uncommon to see them run in the top 10. There's just so much parity right now that it's harder to pass because everybody's good as well. So it's a combination of a lot of factors. That's also what makes things so unpredictable right now, as far as I was talking about building that model. 2025 so far has been the least predictable season since loop data began. We are sitting at a time where the reason for that is a lot of parity and the car and track position being so important that everybody pulls every strategy they can to get track position and keep it. Remember, we've seen Ty Dillon run in the top 10 at non-drafting tracks and not lose positions simply because he has track position. I think it was like Martinsville and Darlington. And it's like, what are we doing when Ty Dillon, who normally is pretty bad, and I mean, he's still 29th in points, but he's just able to keep his 12th place track position. It's some rough times out there right now as far as the car.
Yeah, and I don't know, like we mentioned, when we previewed this season and early on in the season, we said, the bigger teams are gonna figure it out and kind of separate themselves. But even then, it's still I feel like it's almost getting worse as the years go on with this car.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, it is true. I think both can be true. I think the bigger teams figure it out more, but also as you figure out the car, we've all figured out how to make everything to where you can't pass either. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged sword. Yeah, maybe the bigger teams are getting better relative to the smaller teams, but at the same time, as an industry as a whole, they've figured out this car enough to get enough speed out of it that it becomes harder and harder to pass, right? We've seen speeds generally increase at these tracks over the 3 years of the next gen car. So so even though tracks are technically aging and you'd think there'd be more and more tire wear over the few years, the fact that they're optimizing these cars so much more, is getting more speed out of them, is making it harder to pass, is making traction more important, despite the fact that the bigger teams are probably still pulling away relative to the smaller teams. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's such a complex issue because obviously the car has issues. And then, you add in Goodyear issues as well. Like, there's just so many moving parts that it's hard to pinpoint anything. And it's just, every single week I'm sure we can find something else to kind of focus in on. And the fact that there's no progress seemingly being made is just the overall frustrating thing there.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But speaking of frustrating, what is your whine about it this week?
I don't really have one. I mean, it's just it's kind of more of the same, right? I think we all feel it. The state of the
right.
I'm just gonna be honest. Like, it's just I talked about it at the end of last season, but a lot of it was like the rigging of the championship, so to speak. But just like the disinterest, right? Like, I'm sitting here trying to defend my yes vote at Bristol for 20% because I didn't hate the racing. But I'm not like that was great racing. It was good racing. I didn't think it was that bad. So I voted it was a good race because I like watching racing. But I feel like I'm liking watching these races less and less. Like you were saying you were so disinterested in this race from a viewing standpoint. And, I understand it. I watched Bristol and I watched Long Beach, and Long Beach, even though there was very little passing, so to speak, for IndyCar, it was still a really good race. It had a lot of strategy. It had a lot of drama in terms of like, how are these, teams and drivers going to work things out? And it's always varying strategy instead of like the same thing we see every time we come to Talladega, where teams just try to save fuel. And there was a little bit of a wrinkle, with the Toyotas trying to push it in Talladega, but it didn't really make it any more interesting. And like I said, when you push this car at Talladega, it just makes it worse. So,
to me, the most interesting thing at Talladega at the end was whether or not they were going to hit those lappers.
Yep.
I was agree. Like, I wasn't watching the damn actual finish. I was watching to see how close they were getting to hit the lappers.
Well, and that's the thing. The lappers were running the bottom, and Cindric was on the bottom. So, if anything, he got a little bit of a toe off them to win the race.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'd probably be talking about Larson winning, or whoever.
Priest, and then by default, Cindric would have won anyway.
That's true. But yeah, no, it's frustrating, man. It is.
Yeah.
And yeah,
so honestly, I don't have too much more to add. It's just the relative disinterest. And it's so annoying because we honestly have finally had a season where weather hasn't really been a factor much.
Yeah.
Like we're in a season of the rain has actually left us alone for almost all the weekends this year, but we just can't put on a good show now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's starting, it'll continue to be concerning to me if I continue to be disinterested in, like, if I'm more interested in doing something else on a Sunday afternoon than sitting down and watching a race or going somewhere and watching a race, this is going to be a big problem because, you and I both put plenty of time into this sport, and if it's turning us kind of against it, it's just not good for overall fans.
And like, I'm so glad IndyCar is on this weekend because I'm looking forward to an IndyCar race, whereas NASCAR, I always look forward to NASCAR races, but I'm so much more excited about IndyCar.
Yeah. Did you see the tweet comparing the last two laps of Xfinity to Cup?
Yeah.
That is very telling, I think. Mm-hmm. Both from a broadcast point of view and just the racing.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. I love that comment you got there. Elton Sawyer says there's no issue. And it's funny because he talked about the lead changes and then somebody plotted like lead changes versus good race results. And there's like no correlation. Like lead changes doesn't necessarily make a good race.
See, that's the thing. Like there's so many data points in these races that when they get criticism for these races and how they play out, they can find any statistic they want to make their point and say, oh, it really wasn't that bad. Look at this. Like, there's always going to be that. It's speaking of statistics though, I tweeted out last week before Talladega that Caesars had a new prop offering, and it was average running position of the race winner.
Yep.
Did you see what the result was and what the line was?
I saw the line was 13.0, and I looked at the 6 next gen races, and I got exactly 13.0 for the average. So I didn't see what the result was.
Cindric's was 12.94, I believe.
God. Yeah. See, like, yeah, there you go.
I could be wrong on that, but I know it was pretty.
Caesar
it was
set a good line.
Pretty damn close to 13.
Caesar set a good line, unlike for Christian Lundgaard.
Yep. Oh. All right, let's get to Texas.
It's Texas.
3 next gen races at Texas, 3 different winners: Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Tyler Reddick. First off, obviously,
you know the trend there between those 3, right?
What?
Chevy.
Oh,
remember Tyler Reddick was in that RCR Chevy.
He was. Yep, I forgot about that.
Damn, this wine's good. I'm gonna pour another one.
As far as correlation, we talk about Texas being a bit different of a mile and a half than some of the other ones. What tracks or track do you consider the closest related to Texas? Because obviously, mile and a half this year we had Las Vegas, we had Homestead, which super high tire wear, and now we're going to Texas.
Pretty much nothing.
Yeah. Texas itself.
Yeah, because Texas is so track position oriented, so hard to pass. One lane because of all they did to that track. We saw Zane and all those guys run in the top 10 and they kept that track position because track position mattered so much last year. And then he lost that lap because of the pit cycle and you can't get back in the lead lap. It's just a 1-lane race. Other than the first year at Texas, which was, there was a bunch of tire issues. Now that there's no tire issues, you just can't pass there. But you can pass it. Like if you say Charlotte is a good comp, well, you can pass at Charlotte. Michigan, well, you can pass at Michigan. Nashville, you can pass at Nashville. So like, I don't know. I don't have a good comp for Texas and in its current form.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I brought up earlier was Ryan Blaney. He's had the best car. He had the best car at Las Vegas. He had the best car at Homestead.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting there. I think you can get him at 10-1. I'm thinking I might be betting Ryan Blaney this week.
I haven't made a single bet yet. I'll probably have a bet for running hot later tonight. But it all is who gets that track position. Blaney might be fast, but if he doesn't get that track, if he qualifies 5th, he's just going to be stuck in 3rd probably the whole time. How are you going to pass the leader? How are you going to make moves? So when it's kind of like that, what if somebody pulls some strategy to get, Alex Bowman out front? He's just going to keep the track position, or Bubba Wallace. He's going to keep the track position, or Joey Logano. He's going to keep the track position. So Ross Chastain, it's a race where I almost want to look at these guys again in the 20s or 30s. Carson Hocevar, I don't know. Just look at these guys further down the odds board and say, if they get track position, they'll probably keep it and get, bet them for a top 3 or 5 or that kind of like a ladder bet. And yeah, I don't have strong feelings about this race because I think it's just going to be who has the track position. We saw Zane last year. He had the track position. He kept the top 5 the whole freaking time since he got it until the pit cycle. And that's the thing, a mistimed caution on a pit cycle, and it's going to flip the field. Then there's going to be a totally different person leading the race. So
yeah, so I remember last year I didn't watch the Texas race. I was out doing something. I remember watching it, but it wasn't like a typical race day for me where I'm like locked into it. But 5 different guys that led over 30 laps that race. Larson led the most, 77. Then you got Chase Elliott with 39, who won the race. Denny Hamlin led 37. Reddick led 37. Chastain led 33. And that clearly, that just screams, track position. That's all that matters. So the guys that qualify better are going to have the advantage, at least to start the race and, throughout, as we typically see. So with that being said, any leans for you? Do you think obviously Larson's the favorite on most sports books. I just checked Caesars, and they took the entire race down on my side.
Interesting.
They did it for IndyCar too.
Shit, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. What about, this is going to sound ridiculous, but what about Austin Cindric?
You know what? He was hitting my mind too. Yes.
He won a stage at Vegas, finished 6th.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a track position deal and he gets it, he's going to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's 80-1.
Yeah, I'm with you there. The Penske cars, 1, they're good at qualifying, and 2, they're good at maintaining track position.
Yeah, actually, I do want to look at qualifying last year.
I know Larson was on the pole.
2024 Texas. Pulling it up real quick.
Larson, Gibbs, Bell, Reddick, Briscoe.
Okay, so Chevy, triple Toyotas. Yeah, so qualifying was pretty evenly distributed among all the manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
I was just looking to see if there's a manufacturer advantage, but doesn't seem there was.
Yeah, and then the year before it was Toyota, 2 Fords, Toyota, and then 4 Chevys. So,
yeah, I'm less worried about the year before because that was older body on the Toyota and the Fords.
Mm-hmm.
But now we've got this second consecutive year with all 3 manufacturers having the same body.
As far as the next gen races here, like I said, there's been 3 of them. Only 3 drivers have finished top 10 in all 3 races. One of them is William Byron. The other 2 are a bit surprising, at least in my opinion. Brad Keselowski and Chase Briscoe.
I was going to say Chase Briscoe.
Yeah. So him and Briscoe. Then you got Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Tyler Reddick, and Denny Hamlin. They each have 2 top 10s, and then a plethora of drivers with 1 top 10 finish in the next gen era here at Texas. Best driver rating over the 3 races, Tyler Reddick at 111.3. Byron's up there, Larson's up there, Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and then Ross Chastain. This kind of reminds me of, if you remember back to Vegas, it was almost like Trackhouse kind of had something figured out there. This is kind of what Texas is screaming to me as well, where they're going. This is another kind of track where they're going to kind of excel at. Obviously Chastain typically doesn't qualify well. Suarez is usually a mid-pack qualifier, but if they can get the track position, they'll be ones to watch on race day for a top 10 finish.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all that. And I mean, you mentioned Daniel Suarez, like he finished 2nd at Vegas, right? They got that track position with Josh Berry and then just kept it.
Yep.
If you get the track position, if you get the track position at Texas, you're just going to keep it. Like Daniel Suarez is what, 66-1 to win or something, and Austin Cindric's 80-1, and like this might be one of those you just almost like Talladega in a way where you just kind of fire a few long shots and hope one of them gets track position. Probably not going to happen, but like right now there's no strategy to betting Texas because whoever gets the lead is going to keep it.
Yeah.
And what we see with Texas as a result is the multiple pit strategies. Some will split the stage in half. Some will pit early. Some will pit late. And whenever the caution happens to fly, whoever benefits from that will benefit from that. Because we will see cautions.
Yeah.
We will see.
So I think that opens up the door for the long shot top 10 plays. And you look at guys like,
and those were my bets last year, right? I was betting Zane top 10. I was betting some Noah. I think it was Noah top 10, Stenhouse top 10. I even bet Stenhouse to win 150-1, and he was running inside the top 5 all race or whatever it was too, just like Zane. And I think he also got caught out. I think Noah, Zane, and Ricky all got caught out by that caution. So frustrating. And all 3 were running really well, and I had bets on all 3 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just the hard thing. Like, obviously,
Stenhouse is the only one who could pass last year. I remember that. Like, he was the only driver that could pass last year.
We're opening up old wounds here.
Mm-hmm.
But One guy with a long shot, and I'm curious to see if he gets any longer than this. He's currently, I see him at 14-1. I just have ESPN bet open right now for a top 10 finish. But Ty Dillon, 3 races in the next gen era, finishes of 16th, 19th, and 16th for him. He could be one of those that kind of sneaks up there and gets a top 10 finish. Just like, digging deep with some of these guys. I do, like you said, unpredictable season, unpredictable track with Texas, with how important track position is going to be and how even more difficult it's going to be pass than normal, opens up these value betting lines down the list to the longer shots.
Yeah.
And obviously this week we're back to getting normal top 10 odds compared to the shit we got last week at Talladega.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to look at some things here. Give me 1 second. I'm just pulling up a couple stats. So last year, fastest lap of the race was Kyle Larson, 185.7. In 2023, fastest lap of the race was 187.2. Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson had, holy shit. Kyle Larson had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 7 top fastest laps of the 2022 Texas race.
Jesus.
And then 2022, we had the tire issues. Fastest lap was 186. 186, 187.2, 185.7. I'm going to guess a lot of that has to do with temperatures and things like that. They're just the weather conditions. But if I look at 2022, the guy that had the most fastest laps, let's say inside the top 20 fastest laps, was Reddick. In 2023, it was Larson. And in 2024, it was Reddick and Larson, like almost equally. So Reddick and Larson may be the 2 best drivers at this track.
Yeah, so that is one bet that I made earlier today. I grabbed Reddick most fastest laps at 10-1 over on DraftKings.
Yeah. But the problem is, and we know Reddick won 2022, but also a lot of it was the tire deal. But 2023, where did Larson finish in 2023? I need to pull that up. At Texas, Larson was he DNF'd 31st. And then last year
he had that loose tire or something.
Yep.
After just beating the shit out of everybody all race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then last year he finished 21st and Reddick finished 4th, right? Which were the 2 in terms of like the most fastest laps inside the top 20 or whatever. Reddick was fast as shit late in the race. He had the fastest lap on the 2nd fastest lap of the race on lap 216, the 4th fastest lap of the race on lap 217, the 5th fastest lap of the race on lap 215, and the 3rd fastest lap of the race on lap 186, right? So he had the fastest lap 2, 3, 4, and 5 after Larson had the fastest lap of the race on lap 2. So, yeah.
Has Larson had the fastest lap in every single Texas Next Gen race?
No, Chris Buescher had the fastest lap in 2022. And then Reddick had the next 3 fastest laps.
Okay. I misheard you there.
So yeah, it was 2022 was Reddick, 2023 was Larson, 2024 was Larson and Reddick, like split. So if you want to bet on speed, I think Larson and Reddick are your best bets. But if you want to bet on winning, it's whoever the fuck has track position in the last 30 laps.
I think that's what it's going to come down to me. Like the only person I'm kind of considering right now for an outright would be Ryan Blaney. But other than that, I'm just going to wait till live betting. Like I see no reason to bet, especially now before qualifying.
But that's the other thing. Don't live bet too early.
Bro, yeah.
Don't live bet in stage 1. Don't live bet even in stage 2, right? I mean, unless there's something egregious, obviously, but
Mhm.
it's going to come down to whoever has track position on that last pit cycle.
Yep. All right. You have anything else from Texas before we get to our picks and everything else?
No, not really. I don't think Texas is going to help the predictability,
Exactly.
of the season. Let's put it that way. If we get an untimely caution like we did last year, it's just going to shake things up and make things less predictable and all that jazz. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't have really anything else to add. I've made 0 Texas bets so far. I'll have something for running hot tonight for sure. And then it gets released tomorrow morning. But yeah, that's about it.
Mhm. All right. Let's go. Let's do DraftKings first because I have it open. Last week, the differences between our lineups were you had Chastain and Nemechek, and I had Cody Ware and SVG. Other than that, we both had Alfredo, Jones, Stenhouse, and Herbst. You took the win for the second week in a row, 170.2 compared to mine, 152.4. Total season points so far, I'm still slightly ahead, 1913.85. You're at 1887.5. So very close here.
Like 26-ish points.
Yep. Let me share my screen here quick. This is my first time looking at what the driver prices are this week on DraftKings. Larson at the top, no surprise there. And what the hell's going on here? All right. There we go. All right. Larson, most expensive driver this week, followed by Byron, Hamlin, Reddick. Going down here the list a little bit. Wow, there's a lot of. I think these are all just quick glance. I think these are all pretty solidly priced so far, from what I'm seeing. Jesse Love is in this race. He's at 5,200 on DraftKings. SVG priced down with Ty Dillon, Cody Ware, and Chad Fincham at 5,000. That's fair. That is 100% fair. Yep. But your turn to go first with everything this week. So, what you thinking?
Yeah, this is it's going to be an interesting week for sure. I think I have some good ideas of where I'm going. I'm going to start right at the very top and take Kyle Larson.
Can't go wrong there.
I'm going to take Tyler Reddick.
Two heavy hitters right off the bat.
I'm going to take Chase Briscoe.
You're going 3 heavy up top, 3 heavy on the bottom, aren't you?
I'm going to drop all the way down to Justin Haley.
That's a solid pick. Haley has a good track record here.
I am going to take Carson Hocevar.
Ooh, another guy with a good record here.
And it's basically a 3v3 on Dylan McDowell and Stenhouse for me. I could go with any of them. I could go with Zane as well, but last year's Spire was so good. Remember, Zane ran really well. Hocevar didn't get the finish, but Haley, I think, did well last year. And then earlier this year, McDowell, Hocevar, and Haley all ran really well at Vegas. So it wasn't Haley last year; it was LaJoy. But yeah, I think this is a good spot for Spire. But I also talked about how Stenhouse ran as one of the best cars in this race last year. I had him 150-1 to win live. So I'm going to go with Stenhouse off a little bit of the heart move there.
So you're going Larson, Reddick, Briscoe, Hocevar, Stenhouse, Haley.
Yeah.
That's solid. Solid. I can't argue against any of those guys. Like I said, I like Hocevar this week. I like Haley as the low dollar guy. Stenhouse typically doesn't qualify well, but has good track record. And then, I mean, you got Larson, Reddick, and Briscoe. How can you go wrong, right?
Yeah. How can you go wrong? Pretty much just have Larson wreck like he does every other race.
Yeah. True. All right. Entering that one in. I'm going to try not to copy you too much. Like I said, I like Justin Haley this week as the low dollar guy. Why is this? All right. Yeah. I'm trying to decide whether to go to. I don't think I want to go Larson and Reddick, but I think I do for sure want Chastain. So I'm gonna grab Chastain.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like Justin Haley here. Give me Justin Haley. I am gonna go Stenhouse as well because he doesn't qualify very well. I think I'm gonna go. Give me Daniel Suarez.
That's good. That's a good one.
Actually, no, that's way too low. I need another. That's way too much cap space left. I got a feeling about Blaney. Like I said, yep. I'm gonna stick with Blaney.
He's been so fast all year.
Yeah. Yeah, give me Blaney. Give me how much am I gonna have left if I put Larson on there? Kyle Busch. If I go down to Reddick, that gives me up to 97. I'm not sure I like either of those options. Man, this isn't as easy as I thought it'd be. Yeah, give me this is tough. Give me, I guess. I am gonna go Larson, and then I'll go. I'm gonna go Alex Bowman.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
There you go. Bowman's a guy who can win this race. You know, again, another just like any HMS driver that gets track position is going to win. if they're leading with 30 to go.
Yeah, Larson, Blaney, Chastain, Bowman, Stenhouse, Haley, locking it in. All right.
So it's a 3v3 for us this week because we both have Larson, Haley, and Stenhouse.
Yep. So then, yeah, I had Chastain, Bowman, and Blaney, and you have Reddick,
Hocevar, Haley.
Hocevar, Haley. Yep.
Reddick, Hocevar, Briscoe.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'll be interesting. All right. Pick to win. Actually, let's do 36 for 36 first.
36 for 36. Fuck, I don't even know who I'm going to use this week.
I had to look at my available, and it's not fun. It's not a fun week.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, this is a pretty brutal week. I don't know what to do for 36 for 36. Legitimately, I don't know what to do. Have I used? I don't think I have. Have I used Brad Keselowski yet?
I do not think so, no.
He wasn't good at Vegas, but he's been good here.
Yeah, that's the question now. When the hell do you use Kaz?
I know. I'm gonna use Brad Keselowski this week.
Brad Keselowski.
I don't love it, but I don't know where I'm going to use him. And his track record here in the next gen era is good enough.
I want to say that he was decent at the end of Vegas. Finished 11th.
He was better at the end of Vegas, but a lot of it was just like, again, track position and other people having problems.
Mm-hmm. By the way, so you had McDowell last week at Talladega. He ended up with 27 points.
Which isn't bad considering he's averaged 20.1 points per race this year.
Yep. I had Stenhouse, who had 33 points.
Again, not bad considering he's averaged 20.9 points per race this year.
Yeah. So I feel like we got out of Talladega pretty good.
Yeah. It's all you can ask for, right?
Mm-hmm. Man, I do not know. My initial thought was Daniel Suarez in 36 for 36. And
yeah, I don't mind that.
I think I'm going to stick with it.
I don't mind that.
I really do. Yeah, I'm sticking with Daniel Suarez.
I like that. I could see using him at like Mexico City.
Yeah, right.
Road course, hometown. You know he's getting the Trackhouse car on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going Suarez. Again, this is tough because like initially I'm like, well, maybe I'll burn a Larson here because he's been so fast in the like last year here, but we saw what he did last year with the tire issue. So all right, I'm sticking with Suarez. Who you got to win? Who's your pick to win?
Give me Chase Briscoe.
Ooh, all in on Briscoe this week.
I like him. He's run well here, and now he's in a Gibbs car.
Mm-hmm. We're still waiting for him to kind of like fully transition into top tier with this Gibbs car. So
it's interesting. He said it's been a learning curve, right? Like it's so much different than driving a Ford, which I think is interesting. But I don't know. I mean, we talked about how I did that modeling, how this has been the most unpredictable year. Well, that was like if I built a generic model all the way from 25 to 2025, right? So 20 plus years of data. And I said, what are the most predictive variables over those 20 plus years? And then said, run. Well, I built a next gen only model and it still isn't much more predictive, but the variables, there's only 3 variables: your equipment, how good you are on a specific track type, and how good you are on that track. It was basically just like, yeah, here's 3 variables. So, well, he has the equipment and we know he's good at Texas. So let's go.
Yep. Yeah, that would he's one guy that, obviously the news broke, or when the news broke that he's going to Joe Gibbs Racing, everyone was excited, and it's kind of cooled down just because the results haven't been there. But they've shown flashes this year, and eventually they're gonna figure it all out.
And I feel like given he has 3 top 10s and he's in a Gibbs equipment in a 36 for 36, in a pick to win format, which I know you're trying to get the winner, but like even if he doesn't win, my average finish would still probably be pretty good if he finishes like 3rd or 5th or 8th, right?
Mm-hmm. So we all know how bad my picks were to start the year. The first 7 races, I had 0 top 5s, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finishes of 20th or worse. Since then, despite these awful races lately, my picks to win have had a little bit of luck, at least being able to finish the races. 8th or better in the last 3 races for my guys, with Bubba Wallace coming in 8th last week. Obviously, you had the random.org pick of John.
I love that. I tweeted that out, and people were like bookmarking it, like it was some kind of official pick they wanted, like, get me on later.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, why are you all bookmarking this? It makes no sense.
Yeah. So average finish wise, you have 2 wins this year. I have 0. Average finish wise, with that awful finish by Nemechek, is you're at 12.0. I'm at 14.9. So I'm catching. I'm coming up a little bit. I'm loose or tightening that gap, but I'm gonna go with. I'm going Blaney. Give me Blaney.
Yep. You made your bed. I made my bed.
Yeah,
we've both made our beds with our drivers this week.
Yeah. It's a gut feeling for me. I think Blaney takes it. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we get a race. Please, racing gods, give us a good race this week at Texas. We need something. We need some.
Holy shit. What? Hold up. I need to check some odds here. One second. What is Blaney's odds for a top 10 if you have Hard Rock? I don't have Hard Rock, right? So I'm not in the Hard Rock state.
Hard Rock officially limited me, by the way. Blaney's top 10 odds are minus 190.
What about top 5?
Plus 260.
Blaney's top 5 odds everywhere else are plus 130, plus 105, plus 135. Plus 260 is way out of line.
You know what else is way out of line?
What?
And shout out to Greg Mathern for pointing this out to me. Reddix. He's at plus 210 on Hard Rock. He's plus 110 everywhere else.
Yeah. See, I wish I had Hard Rock. I don't. So
I wish they'd let me get anything down. They don't let me get shit down anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sucks.
Yeah.
But if you have Hard Rock, those are some good lines too.
Yep.
Was it Hard Rock last year? No, it was Fanatics last year at Texas. You remember they fat fingered Ty Gibbs at like 50-1 for a top 5.
Yeah, that's right.
Or something stupid. And then of course, he looked great all race until I think he blew a tire or something too.
So yeah, if you have Hard Rock, bet that Blaney top 5, bet that Reddick top 5.
Yep.
Those are fantastic.
Yeah. All right, you got anything else?
IndyCar, real quick.
Oh yeah.
I love throwing this in here. Updated forecast of weather came out. Could be rain on Saturday when they qualify. So anytime I see rain in the forecast for qualifying, I immediately look to Colton Herta. So Not necessarily for pole in terms of like pole odds, but just like if he's going to qualify near or on the pole, then his race odds to win should be shorter. So I haven't shopped it. I literally don't know what his best odds are right now. We've been recording this, but I saw the updated forecast while we were talking. He's 12-1 at DK. He is, let me see, at Bet365, he's 16-1. I like that. Caesars, I believe he's 14-1 before they took odds down. FanDuel doesn't have odds. ESPN doesn't have odds. And BetMGM, let me check that.
I always forget that BetMGM exists.
I don't actually. I never forget them. BetMGM.
I just hate their app.
12-1 for Colton. So it looks like best is 16-1 at Bet365 if you have that for Colton Herta. So I do like that if there's going to be rain in the forecast. And honestly, I would take Colton Herta over Kyle Kirkwood at Bet365 as well. -110 for Colton Herta. Honestly, I feel like that's a slam dunk. I'd take that even without rain.
What?
At Barber? Yeah, Kyle's not been good at Barber. Colton's much better at the natural terrain road courses than Kyle. Kyle's much better at the street courses.
Mm-hmm.
So a little divergence there. I would slam dunk Colton Herta over Kyle Kirkwood at 365.
I'll see how much they'll let me get down.
So yeah, there's your IndyCar update to conclude our podcast.
Yep. All right. Anything else you have this week?
Nah, I think we're good, man. Get
All
your
right.
Luvabella Passion Essenza. This is good. I really like the blackberry. I'll have to try some of the other flavors. Of the Essenza, I only got the blackberry shipped to me, but now that I like that so much, I'll have to order some more and try some more. So Luvabella.com, they ship. So, you don't have to be in one of their in-store states either, but they've also been doing a great job getting in stores as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. I got nothing else for Texas.
Neither.
What's next week? Is it Charlotte already next
Kansas.
week? Kansas. Then Charlotte, right?
Then All-Star, then Charlotte.
Yep. I knew it was in there somewhere. All right.
Yep.
Yeah. Texas. Oh, I'm looking at Xfinity schedule. I was like, why is there an off week? Yeah. Yeah. Texas, Kansas on Mother's Day, North Wilkesboro for the All-Star. All right. Good luck, everybody, this week at Texas, the Wurth 400. By the way, if you believe in the tradition of, you remember all those times that Logano won the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas while driving a Pennzoil car?
Yes.
Josh Berry is driving the Wurth car in the Wurth 400 this week.
Yeah.
So winner at Vegas is driving the
Yep.
same sponsored car.
Exactly.
Just a little tidbit there. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. See ya.